Hello everyone. I'm the Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the Irish NA, but I've just started a few months ago, so I'm still catching up, but I've had some support in preparing this presentation as well. So for an update from the rural strand, our target group, as Tony mentioned, we young people and organisations in rural areas. So this includes isolated towns and communities that are experiencing barriers to participation. We've got 9 NAs involved in the strand, you can see here. And as part of preparing this, we identified some key barriers that people in rural areas would experience in participating in Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps, as you can see here. And the general objectives, I suppose, to create and sustain long-term quality partnerships with rural areas. So, and that in turn then would increase collaboration and participation in the programs. There is a long list of proposed activities, some of which have happened and some of which have been delayed because of the current situation, but study visits to rural areas and community projects have happened, and there's one proposed in the future in Poland there, and partner finding for beginners in rural areas, so different project labs are happening across Europe as well. One key area that a lot of NAs are focusing on at the moment is the mapping of disadvantaged areas and mapping of new organisations within these areas to engage with as well. But this strand, yeah, we all meet and talk quite often. So another key activity for us is the sharing of learning and sharing of expertise. I have a short update from Italy here as well. So the Italian NA has focused on promoting the mobility of young people from fragile territories, as you can see they're coloured in the map, and mapping the needs of youth organisations as well, focusing on creating partnerships, like I mentioned, one of our key priorities, and spreading opportunities through youth organisations and youth workers. I have an update from Romania as well. So they were quite active in sending participants to project labs in the past years, and have a study visit hopefully organised for this autumn, but fingers crossed it happens. And again for Finland, so a study visit hopefully planned for later this year, and different opportunities organised for next year as well. If you do want to know more, I have Mirella with me from Italy, who's available to answer your questions when we go to a breakout room as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Mirella. Next will be an update from the strand on health and diverse abilities. So Hannah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Viva. I'm sharing my screen again. So, in the health and diverse abilities, we have, you can here see the participating national agencies. And well, our aims are of course pretty much the same as the overall SPI aims. And especially we want to motivate and support organizations from relevant fields working with young persons with disabilities, be it self-representing organizations or other organizations, to really network on European level and use the EU youth programs. But apart from that, we also want to support organizations already active in international youth work to work more inclusively in the program contexts and involve persons with disabilities in their projects. And for that, we try to especially support also networking between those two types of organizations. And as a by effect, we hope to also raise awareness on at European level for disability inclusion and diversity. The overall aim, of course, is to facilitate access to European youth projects to more young persons with disabilities and health conditions, because we also see that those are really still a minority in the projects, in the program context. So I actually already said who we want to reach, but apart from the organizations, we also want to reach young persons that are motivated to engage for inclusion and diversity, and are quite happy to see that actually really motivated young persons apply for our training and networking opportunities already. Maybe just to give an impression of what has happened in the last years, just some of the highlights. In 2019 and 2020, for example, we had 2 big inclusion matchmaking seminars in Germany and Slovenia with a really high number of participants from 18 countries, where organizations working in the field of disability and disability inclusion met, connected, and started planning projects together. We have also developed some products in the framework of the strand. For example, a guide beyond disabilities, European mobility for all, by the French and Belgian French-speaking national agencies. And the Latvian National Agency has produced an interesting video about a solidarity project on diabetes. There you see the links. You can later on see them in the documentation, of course. More interesting maybe for you, what is planned for the next month. Well, every national agency involved has its own national activities, of course. So starting with information sessions, networking events, but also offering project labs. So it's really support on developing projects. Just ask your national agency, ideally your inclusion officer, what is planned at national level. Also this year, we're working on a product. So we have a very experienced author working on a disability inclusion guidelines together with a checklist on mixed abilities projects involving young persons with disabilities, which is really addressed to organizations that work internationally, but maybe didn't involve youngsters with disabilities so far, and maybe still have some fears or and don't know really how to go about it. That's the perfect guide for you then, or will be. Because it actually will be launched at an event in, hopefully, taking place in Iceland in November of this year, where we will also have some capacity building using these disability inclusion guidelines as a base. Then in September, October, we will have a partnership building activity where organizations can meet partners, network, and start exploring project opportunities for young persons that are hard of hearing or deaf in the European Solidarity Corps. And there we really have also youngsters involved that want to do, for example, solidarity activities. Really interesting. And last but not least, there will be an online event for contact making and learning more about the program possibilities for involving young persons with disabilities in hosted by Hungary, taking place in October of this year. And for this one and the one in Iceland, the application will still be launched. So if you're interested, be attentive and have a look at the European training calendar. And that's it. So we hope to see you at one of these events I talked about. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you, Hannah. So next is an update. We have 2 more strands to give you updates on, just so you know. Next is Anja, who will give you updates on what the NEET strand has been up to.
So I'm Anja Frohner from the Austrian National Agency, inclusion officer there, and today I just give you a little insight about the SPI NEET strand. So we have 12 partner countries, which you see here, and the coordination currently is taken by Jana from the Latvian National Agency. So the aims, I think, kind of identify itself also with the SBI overall aims and the other strands. So we want to support capacity building of youth workers and organizations working or interested in working with young people in NEET situation. Of course, also foster exchange of experience and networking. I think this is really essential to have exchange between very experienced organizations and newcomer organizations. Then we also focus on identifying and showcasing best practices, such as successful projects, methods, approaches, etc., in working with young people in NEET situation. And therefore, we also, of course, want to motivate and support organizations and youth workers in order to increase the participation of young people in the European youth programs. The target groups, I think for us it's very important to work with multipliers. So you guys here in the room, so organizations and youth workers interested in working with young people in NEET situation, and of course organizations working with or representing young people in NEET situation. The activities, I think at the moment there's different kinds of well, the type of activities goes from study visits to training courses, seminars, partner building activities, etc. For example, in the past, in May this year, the Estonian National Agency hosted an online training course on new ways of catching up with young people in NEET situations. So we always look also at the current needs of the sector and reaching out during, well, pandemic times and using digital means was very like an important topic. So the Estonian National Agency picked up on the topic and had a training course on that, which was very successful. And upcoming events at the moment, the Latvian National Agency is planning a study visit in November. Here are the dates. And the contact person is Jana, so feel free to get more information about it. And of course, look at the training calendar because it will be posted there in order to apply for it. And we're currently in the planning phase, so keep your eyes open for more activities to come in order to join the NEET strand also, well, the activities of the NEET strand. Some resources, lastly, of course, the SALTO publications has been mentioned already, and I put it there again, and also want to point out the On Track conference that has happened, which very much obviously fits this topic. So please look into it. It's very inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you. Fabulous. So last but not least, Tony, to give you updates on this strand number 4.
Yeah, for the moment, it's a little bit of a non-existing strand. I mean, the idea was there, but then with COVID, it's difficult to get something new started. We would like to address opportunities for young people from diverse backgrounds, meaning migrant youth, refugee youth, asylum seekers, so the whole category. However, we're a little bit waiting till real activities can pick up again, and then we will not necessarily organize extra activities, but through our channels, bring youth workers who are working with these target groups together in activities organized by our NA colleagues, by the field, by SALTOs, etc. So it will be less very specific SPI focused, but keep an eye on, what would I say, on the social media of the national agencies or SALTO. You could also register for the SALTO newsletter, or as has been mentioned several times, if you really want to keep updated, there is a possibility in the training calendar to receive all new activities that are added. So if then there's an activity on specifically the target group you're working with, then that's your chance to jump on it. Voila.